Hi, this is Leanne at Complete Payroll. Welcome to Payroll Country. Today we're going to take a look at how to complete the setup and payroll entries for employees with leave under the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, or FFCRA, in Evolution Classic. First and foremost, new earning and deduction codes must be set up in your company. If you have not requested setup for FFCRA leave, please contact your dedicated customer service representative to begin that process now. To begin setup in Evolution Classic, click on the Employee button on the left and select Time Off Accrual, which opens the Browse tab to show the list of all our active employees. Click on the desired employee to select and then click the green plus at the top of the page to create a new record. In the Detail window, click into the Type field and select FFCRA Sick Plan from the drop-down menu. In the Current Accrued field, enter 2 times the employee's average hours weekly and enter the reason appropriately. Next, enter the date that the employee began leave in the Effective Date field. Click the green check and little green check to save and commit changes. If the employee is eligible for FFCRA Expanded Leave for childcare, click the green plus at the top of the screen again and select FFCRA Extended Leave in the Type field. For this benefit, enter 10 times the employee's average hours weekly in the Current Accrued field and enter the reason appropriately. In the Effective Date field, enter the date that is 2 weeks after the employee first begins FFCRA sick leave. For example, if the employee began sick leave on April 3rd, enter April 17th as the effective date for the expanded leave benefit. Click the green check and the little green check to save and commit changes. Repeat these steps as needed for additional employees. If you pay an employer-sponsored health benefit amount for your employee, complete the following steps. Click the Employee button on the left and select Scheduled EDs. Click on the desired employee and then click the green plus at the top of the page to create a new record. Click into the Code field and select M20 FFCRA ER benefit from the drop-down list. Next, click into the Effective End Date field and enter the appropriate date to end the employer health credit for this employee. Click the green checks to save and commit. The appropriate date to end the employer health credit is determined by the employee's expected date of return to work and by the check date of the employee's last payroll that includes FFCRA leave earnings. In addition, if the employee returns to work prior to this date, you must change this end date to reflect the employee's actual date of return. For example, the employee returns to work on Friday, April 24th. Your pay period is Sunday to Saturday with a check date of the following Friday. In this scenario, enter an effective end date after Friday, May 1st and before the following check date to ensure the FFCRA employer benefit properly accounts for the employee's actual date of return. Please reach out to your customer service rep with any questions that you may have about the appropriate effective end date. Finally, if the employee does not currently have an active memo code deduction for employer-sponsored healthcare, one must be added. Click the green plus at the top of the page to create a new record. Click into the Code field and select the appropriate code for your company, possibly EERM or M11. Next, enter the appropriate pay period cost in the Amount field. Click the green check and little green check to save and commit. Repeat these steps as needed for additional employees. There is one last step for salaried employees who will receive both FFCRA hours and salary in the same pay period. Click the Employee button on the left and click Employee. Select the desired employee and click the EE Entry tab. In the Average Hours field, enter the number of hours this employee works per pay period. Click Yes when prompted. Rate will change too. Click the green check and little green check to save and commit changes. As you can see, this creates an hourly rate for your salaried employee. The average hours and rate amount must be removed from the employee record as soon as they are no longer being paid FFCRA hours and salary in the same pay period to avoid accidentally overpaying someone if hours are entered under non-FFCRA codes. Next, click the Notes tab and click into the Payroll Notes window to create a reminder to remove the average hours and rate from this employee record when intermittent FFCRA leave is over. Click the green check and the little green check to save and commit. This payroll note will cause the employee's check line to be yellow on the Payroll Quick Entry grid. To view the notes, double-click on the employee's name, and you will be reminded to remove the average hours and rate amount entries when they are no longer needed. Once the change is complete, you may remove the note by deleting the text and clicking the green check marks to save and commit. Now that the necessary employee setup is complete, we will take a look at how to enter the appropriate leave hours and earnings in Payroll. Click on the Payroll button, and after creating your payroll and batch, click the Quick Entry tab and add the following codes to your grid: ES1, Emergency Sick Self, ES2, Emergency Sick Other, and EF1, Emergency FMLA. To add a column for any new code, right-click the mouse anywhere on the grid, click ED, click Add, and select the appropriate code with the hours description. You may add the amount columns at your discretion, but the hours columns are necessary and the amounts will auto-calculate. To enter hours manually on your quick entry grid, select the appropriate code and enter the full number of hours the employee normally averages for a pay period. Use the code ES1 Emergency Sick Full if an employee is unable to work or unable to telework due to a need for leave because the employee is subject to a federal, state, or local quarantine or isolation order related to COVID-19, has been advised by a healthcare provider to self-quarantine related to COVID-19, or is experiencing COVID-19 symptoms and is seeking a medical diagnosis. Use the code ES2 Emergency Sick Other, 2/3, for the first 2 weeks if the employee is unable to work or unable to telework due to a need for leave because the employee is caring for an individual subject to an order of quarantine or self-quarantine as previously described, is caring for a child whose school or place of care is closed or child care provider is unavailable for reasons related to COVID-19, or is experiencing any other substantially similar condition specified by the Secretary of Health and Human Services in consultation with the Secretaries of Labor and Treasury. Use the code EF1 Emergency FMLA for any additional weeks up to 10 weeks the employee is unable to work or unable to telework due to a need for leave because the employee is caring for a child whose school or place of care is closed or child care provider is unavailable for reasons related to COVID-19. Again, because this is important, enter the full number of hours for each employee that they normally average per pay period. In other words, do not enter 2/3 of normal hours for emergency sick or FMLA. Enter the full hours, and Evolution will compensate at 2/3 and follow the appropriate thresholds. If you import your payroll hours from our timekeeping system, SwipeClock or TimeWorks Plus, these codes have been added to the category column selection on your employee time cards. You can add the appropriate hours for each employee just as you would add any other hours while editing time cards. It is equally important to use the full number of hours the employee normally averages for a pay period on the time card. Once all time cards are updated, continue to import into Payroll as usual. Lastly, if you are entering benefits for an employee who is receiving non-FFCRA earnings, either salaried or hourly, and FFCRA earnings in the same pay period, you must create a second check for their regular salary or hourly earnings, and edit to remove any scheduled deductions that should not be duplicated. This is required because upon pre-processing, any salary amount on the same check with FFCRA hours will be zeroed out to prevent the employee from accidentally being paid for both. Additionally, taxation of other wages will not calculate appropriately if they are included in the same check with FFCRA wages. For assistance creating this additional check, please reach out to your customer service representative or view our demonstration video, Creating Second Checks in Evolution Classic. Once all hours and earnings are entered, continue steps to complete your payroll processing as usual. This concludes our demonstration of how to complete FFCRA leave for an employee in Evolution Classic. If you have any questions about this process, please reach out to your dedicated customer service representative. We are here to help like always. Thank you for joining me today, and from all of us in Payroll Country, stay safe and be well.